Today we will talk about the 2012 Oregon Ducks, of course, the defending Pac-12 champions from last season. Very impressive win in the Rose Bowl against Wisconsin last season. Of course, 2 years ago they played the Auburn Tigers in the national championship game. I'm Dan Harrelson alongside Nick Taylor, and to help talk about the 2012 Oregon Ducks is radio play-by-play announcer for the Ducks. That's Jerry Allen. Jerry, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Jerry, so much.
Well, let's talk about this team. You lose a quarterback and lose the all-time leading rusher at Oregon at running back. So a few spots to fill in, but it seems like with Chip Kelly and his great running attack and passing offense, it doesn't seem like it's going to faze them. So let's talk about the 2012 offense, Jerry.
Well, it looks like it has a chance to be just as explosive as it was last year and the last couple of years. The question is, for Michael James had to replace a guy like that just was pretty durable and was able to get free and break some long runs. They got a couple of great candidates. Kenyon Barner, who was sort of his stablemate, and Chip Kelly used to call him kind of 1 and 1A, and I think Kenyon easily would have been over 1,000 yards last year had it not been for a severe concussion he got about a third of the way through the season against Washington State, and he missed a considerable chunk of the season. He's good. He is, some compare him to more Michael James, you know. The question is the durability, and if he's able to take the poundage, he's got the moves. And he may not need to carry the ball as much as Michael, but Oregon was really a little more of a one-dimensional offense last year than a lot of people realized. They didn't have that breakout wide receiver, although Anthony Thomas turned into be a pretty good go-to guy at times, but it was Michael James. The quarterback, Derek Thomas, 2 years ago ran the ball a lot from that position, that sort of a shotgun position, but last year he didn't run the ball as much. So I think what they've got this year is 2 quarterback candidates, one is Marcus Mariota, who is a redshirt freshman, and Ryan Bennett, who is a sophomore who played some last year. And it's up in the air who's going to get the job. They're both really, really good. Oregon does not have a problem with quarterback. Whoever wins that job will be able to replace Darren Thomas. And if they can develop that depth to tell back to go with Barner, Anthony Thomas, who's on just about everybody's list as an athlete in the nation, and what his abilities are, speed, his elusiveness. He's not a big guy, so again, how much pounding can he take? But he's got a lot of carries, and he'll kind of play out once in a while. They've used him in a lot of different places. The offensive line returns 3 starters. There's a lot of guys that got rotations last year, and they've got a good 12 guys to choose from at wide receiver. I'm going to say Eric Dungy and Daryl Hawkins probably the 2 leading guys that will get probably a quick jump out of the start of the season. But it could be any one of 7 or 8 guys. So they've got the weapons on offense. I'm not concerned about the offense at all. And I think the Chip Kelly system, you don't have to have all-stars. Enough since you got a great guy like Michael James, but you don't have to have all-stars because it's a wide-open, hurry-up offense that's tough to keep up with whoever's on the field.
Well, Jerry, my focus is going to shift a little bit. Dan, I have a 2-part question. I'll throw it to you for a 2-parter if you have one as well. But my first question is, my concern for Oregon is on the defensive side of the ball because as great as they are offensively, there's been a few key breakdowns on defense in the last couple of years. The Auburn game, in the national championship game in particular, where some plays weren't made in the secondary. Talk about the situation with the Oregon secondary. My second question is, everybody's assuming that Oregon and USC is going to play twice this year. Talk about the possibility of a Washington or anyone for that matter in the conference possibly beating Oregon or USC and kind of throwing a monkey wrench into the conference season.
Well, you know, I'll take your first part of that question. The defense, Nick Alioti's defense is predicated on having depth. And again, it's kind of not having an all-star defense. He rotated 2 years ago, 22 to 23 guys on the field. And we're not talking about guys coming in and giving a starter a blow for a series or 2-3 plays. So they honestly pretty well split plays. So, and he did that again last year, up to 20 guys rotated on the defense. So what he did was kept his defense fresher. And against offenses late in the ball game or in the second half, that gives them a little bit of advantage. They're not a huge defense. They're a speed defense, particularly at linebacker. They're going to track you down. And I think that's what he's got again this year. He's got 7 or 8 guys coming back who started last year. But he's got, I counted 12 guys who had significant playing time last year. Now, they didn't start 6 games, but maybe they started 2 or 3 and then played significant minutes in the others. So I really think he's got experience in that. John Boyette, probably the key in the secondary safety, and he's like a coach on the field. He's a hitter. Eric Mitchell, the corner, is back, great speed. And then they've got one of the best, I think, Russians in the conference, and he's going to make a name for himself, I think, in the league, and that's Deion Jordan. So they've got the pieces. I think they've got the depth again, and they're not going to overpower people with their size and strength like an SEC defense, but they're going to run you down because they're going to stay fresh all game.
What about the second question about Oregon or USC being upset by Washington or one of the other Pac-12 teams?
Well, I think if you don't go into the conference respecting every opponent, there's probably 3 or 4 guys that can really stick you, and it's happened in the past too. I think Washington State's offense is going to be very, very good. And they come in with Mike Leach. He likes to just throw the ball all over the field. He's going to spread you. He's going to run you to death. So there's a new offense that Oregon's going to have to face this year defensively. That's a concern game. Washington can keep Price, one of the better quarterbacks. Anytime you've got a quarterback coming back in the Pac-12, I think any of the major conferences, you got a returning quarterback, you've got a guy that is special. And I think Washington, even though they lost Polk at running back, they still got great offense coming back. And with, I think, probably a vastly improved defense, Justin Wilcox, who left from Tennessee after being at Boise State. He's just been successful everywhere he's been. He's at Washington now. He's going to make the defense better. If they'd have had him last year, Washington might have been able to battle for not only a good bowl game, but might have given Oregon or USC a run for their money because they had the offense. They didn't have any defense. I think those are the two, Washington State. I think Rich Rod out in Arizona. It's Stanford. I never once gone, but that Stanford is still a smart football team. It's a well-coached team. So, yeah, if you're not ready to play, or if you don't play your best, if you give somebody an opening, their team's good enough to Pac-12, we'll take you down.
Well, Jerry, let's talk about the USC once again. Of course, that's a big game, November 3rd, assuming that will be a night game. Alabama at LSU is already a night game on CBS, so that will be a huge weekend for the landscape of this 2012 college football season. But let's talk about Monty Kiffin and the defense at USC. Why is it, do you think, he struggles with more of a spread attack and more of a mobile type quarterback? Because he lost a few games at Tennessee, much like the Ole Miss game and Virginia Tech game when he was in the SEC, and then he lost to Oregon first year at USC and some other games. But what's your thought on that? Do you think it's just an NFL mentality that he has to get used to the spread attack of college? And speaking of Oregon assistant coaches, let's talk about John Neal. He's a secondary coach. Of course, we know him in this area of the country being at UAB in the mid-'90s. What does he mean to coaching up that secondary at Oregon?
Well, USC is, in my mind, has the best offense in the country going in. Their scholarship limitations are going to put them on alert. They cannot afford too many injuries. They've got great receivers. Obviously, Wood's going to be one of those. They got the best quarterback in the nation going in Matt Barkley. Great running back. They got some depth red out there now. Their offense is set, but not a lot of depth. So injuries are going to be key to USC, particularly in the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they lost some big players. I don't know the mentality of Monty Kiffin. I know that USC recruits big and more SEC type, I think, of linemen and defense than you find usually in the Pac-12. So maybe it's not a defense that is up to play in the smaller, quicker offenses in the conference. And I'm only guessing. I don't know if there's still some doggone good. But I think that USC's defense is another one of those sides of the ball for USC that's got to have some luck this year. They don't have the depth. So if they start going through guys with injuries or issues, and they're already starting to have some of those, then they could find themselves having to outscore teams this year. But, going in, they're going to be ranked. The team to beat the Pac-12. They're in the top 5. I've got them, I think, at number 3 in the nation on my poll for a reason. They've got the talent, they got a great coach, and they got a great home schedule with Oregon having to go down there.
Well, speaking of the assistant coaches, another assistant coach I forgot to mention was Scott Frost. Of course, we know him as a former Nebraska quarterback, but he's doing very well with the wide receivers. But just touch a little bit on what those top assistant coaches mean to Chip Kelly, just keeping that whole Oregon thing together after a few coaching changes, because this is the pinnacle that Oregon's at in the length of their football program. But talk about the whole continuity with the staff.
Well, I think that you mentioned John Neal. John Neal is one of, I think, along with Dick Aliotti, has been underrated a lot this year because the offense has gotten so many headlines. John Neal is just an unbelievably respected secondaries coach, not only by his kids, but I think other coaches. Sometimes Oregon's secondary, I think their defense takes some hits because they'll give up maybe some yards and some points. But when you realize how quickly Oregon's offense scores and gets out the field and how many more offensive plays Oregon's opponent has, then you begin to realize how long Oregon's defense is on the field. And when you break down the per game or per play average, I think Oregon's off for defense and secondary probably would put up with anybody in the Pac-12 and among the top in the nation. So they're better than they look when you just look at the raw numbers. Scott Frost is probably definitely a great head coach somewhere. He's a remarkable young man that is a great teacher. He's a great athlete already coming in, but he's got that ability to teach. And I realized that in his first year when I talked to some of his wide receivers, and I said, what is there about Coach Frost you like? And they said, he never yells at me. And I said, okay, I get it. He never yells at you, so what? He said, all coaches raise their voice and yell to get your attention. He never yells at us. He never raises his voice because he has our respect. We don't want to miss something he says or he wants us to do. He's just got that kind of a personality. So he's going to be a head coach somewhere someday. He's going to be a very successful head coach, and I wouldn't be surprised if one day it's to the NFL level.
Well, Dan, I want to say in closing, Jerry mentioned he had USC number 3 in his preseason poll, and we'll keep the rest of his poll confidential as we will the other announcers, but Jerry will be in the first ever Inside College Football Announcers poll that we will release next week in the middle of August, and we look forward to having announcers like Jerry Allen from Oregon involved in the poll. And Jerry, we'll get you off the record here in a minute and talk about getting that recording. But Jim Hawthorne of LSU, Pete Arbogast of Southern Cal, just some of the great announcers in the game of college football, and we certainly appreciate the depth and analysis that Jerry's brought to us, being a member involved in the Oregon football program.
Thanks, I appreciate it. It's an honor to be a part of it, and I look forward to talking to you all year long.
Absolutely, and we'll get a minute with you off the record as we finish up here. Dan, did you have anything else for Jerry?
No, that's about it. Jerry, you do a great job calling the Oregon games, and can't wait for this season to kick off. And it looks like you guys will have to go up against Gus Malzahn once again, first game against Arkansas State.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There's some great sidebars to that story. He's a great coach, and so Oregon's fortunate. They got a somewhat easier schedule to start this year with 4 games at home before they have to hit the road. They got a